is obviously like the law enforcement arm all coming together to do this, but the prosecutorial step then becomes a big part of this, and you're saying a lot of people should be in prison, a lot of them should have already gone to prison, some would say. What is your communication? I don't see anyone from Kevin's Lyons office here. Like, have we spoken to him? Is he on board?
You know, I spoke with Lyons yesterday, and he's out of town, so we didn't have time to go over the details. He's assigned it to someone on his staff until he gets back, and we'll be discussing it in more detail when he gets back. And he generally knows what we're planning. He doesn't know some of the details. Again, we're waiting to meet in person, but you know, we need his cooperation, and I expect his cooperation. But again, I don't control what happens in the state's attorney's office, and we've got enough to control just worrying about what we have to worry about. So I'm willing to work with him, and I expect to meet with him, and I know he's got limited resources available too, but I expect he's going to do the best he can do.
You're taking this task force up to 16 officers from the evening hours to 4 in the morning. What was it before? How many officers were on patrol until this?
Well, I guess I don't know if I understand the question. Everybody that was on patrol before, numbers-wise, will be on patrol still, doing the same jobs. Same number. Same number. All the bodies that are going to come onto the task force and work the street are being replaced by officers we're going to have working on overtime.
16 additional officers to what was there, right?
Yes.
So I think she's asking how many officers were there before.
I guess I don't know what those there.
Like on a normal night, would you have 12 officers doing this, and now you're going to have 16 or 24?
How many officers we have on patrol on a normal night?
For those hours.
We're probably, and that, depending on how many come in from the state and the county or other agencies, I'm gonna guess that we're gonna have double the number of officers we have working on any given night that we normally would have had.
What would you have normally had, I guess?
Well, it depends on the night. It depends on what time of the night, but you're probably on an average night low 20s if there's no overlapping shift at the time.
You had mentioned earlier about people not coming forward due to being scared about retaliation. Is there anything your department can do to help in situations where somebody does want to come forward and give the information with the retaliation aspect of it?
Well, you know, what we do when people approach us is, one, we try and be honest with them. And that is, if you give us a statement, you give us information, and we know who you are, and it goes to prosecution, we can't protect your name in almost all cases from being part of the record. And the defense has access and rights to know who gave us that information. If you're anonymous, you're anonymous. If I don't know who you are, I can't provide your name. Most cases, we don't get very many cases of real retaliation, although it does happen. When we see a credible threat, we are willing to offer as much assistance as we can. We may put an alarm in someone's home if it gets serious enough. We may have an officer specially assigned to kind of patrol that neighborhood and keep an eye on that house. Can I assign an officer to spend their entire day with someone who reported a crime because they're afraid? I can't do that. We notch up our response based upon the credibility and seriousness of the threat.
I think this gentleman.
It's a question concerning the drug market initiative. How effective has that been? Because I was targeted in those high crime areas. Have you seen a result from that issue at all, of crime being reduced, at least in that neighborhood area radius where they had that?
You know, actually what I saw today, again, looking at the maps, is the drug market initiative area is kind of on the outside edge of that darkest red circle. And I believe, and I can't prove it to you standing here today, I believe the drug market initiative area has gotten a lot better, and so now you see kind of a ring around it, and it's not perfect, but I believe that prior to the drug market initiative, that area was in the middle of the red. It's not today. It's not our hottest spot.
So that therefore wasn't successful.
I'm hoping that it's because of the drug market initiative. Absolutely. This gentleman's been waiting. Yes, sir.
With this focus on the curfew, it seems to me that you're implying that a lot of the problem is related to juvenile crime. But from what I've been reading and seeing, the victims have been adults and the perpetuators have been adults. So how is focusing on these little teenagers going to reduce what's happening in terms of the violence?
Well, I think that's an excellent question. And that is true. Most of our shooters and victims have been adults. but we've got young kids running our streets. We've got gunfire flying around them. We've got, you know, we've had a couple incidents this year already where we have large groups of people milling around and talking, doing it, and whatever they're doing in the middle of the night, and there's young kids present, and people are being shot. And I think only by the grace of God we haven't had a little kid yet that's been killed by this random gunfire. But on the other hand, I guess to further the point, while those teenagers, those 13, 14, 15-year-olds, may not have been primarily our shooters or our targets, they're still in harm's way, and they're still getting involved in other crimes out on the street.
How long are you keeping this task force on for? I mean, I'm sure it's going to depend on crime rates. Is there a certain point where you're going to say, okay, now we're going back to normal shifts, or?
Yeah, there's a point. I don't know where it is. It's going to be driven. I don't have an end date. It's going to be driven by, you know, what effect we have on the crime rate, what effect we have on the shootings, how much can we change these red spots on the map towards green, how long does it take, and how long can I afford it? You know, all of that's got to be weighed into it. How long can the officers take it? You know, this is going to be very fatiguing and taxing on them. Not only the officers in the task force who are going to be working long hours and working, you know, hot, sweaty nights running around the city of Peoria, all the people behind them that are filling in and working lots of overtime to maintain our staffing, that gets tiring from our detectives investigating the crimes. I've already got a lot of people who are fairly fatigued, but they've not lost their drive that I can tell. And by the sheer fact that I had more volunteers to get involved than I needed, you know, I got a lot of people. They're tired, but they're still ready to go.
Do you know who we are? PCCEO, helping people, changing lives for every stage of life.
Chief, can you help us understand how the other agencies are going to be involved? This is going to be the Sheriff's Office and Bartonville and the Park District and Washington making more increased stops in the city of Peoria during those overnight hours?
Well, you know, that'll be up to the individual chiefs and their manpower resources that are available to them. I know that the state police and I, Dean Kennedy and I, have discussed it. He is going to bring patrol cars into Peoria to help us patrol, and we're going to be doing some roadside safety checks and some other things that are going to be very proactive. The sheriff, I know, is committed to bring resources into the city to patrol with us. And how many is going to be up to them, and I guess up to their staffing for the day and whatever they have going on in their own areas. From some of the other chiefs present, may or may not send some people, or they may assist us in their own jurisdictions. You know, our folks don't stay in Peoria, you know, and some of the things that go on in Peoria are people coming from the outside. You know, there's a number of our drug buyers who are contributing to this nonsense that are not from Peoria and are coming from outside to buy drugs. There are lots of things that we don't have planned out yet, but we're going to work on. Let's get somebody way in the back up at the top.
There is a great deal of fear. We talk with many of our residents who live in Taft, who live in Harrison, and even though, you know, we're preaching the message to, if you call, make the call, it will be anonymous. Residents do not believe that call will be anonymous, especially if it's made from a house phone. They know the police already have, they know what my number is, and they don't want to get involved. Many residents see what happened. They don't want to call, they don't want to make that call because of fear of retaliation. So I would be looking for any suggestions that anyone has on the task force or anyone else as to how we can help our residents feel that they can be, that there's some type of protection if I help and cooperate and call the police.
Well, Brenda, you can typically, you know, most everybody has a cell phone nowadays. You can block your number from outgoing calls to dispatch. Again, if I don't know who you are, I don't know who you are. And